honourable member for Kootenay, Columbia. Over here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You'd be hard-pressed to find an individual in this chamber that doesn't love Canada. But there's a difference in approach in this House as it pertains to managing the affairs of the country on behalf of tax-paying Canadians who have elected them. We are servants in the House of Commons, not masters. Mr. Speaker, if you want to see greatness, don't look around this chamber, look around our ridings. In my riding, you'll see it with the coal-stained shirt of Jason, the miner who extracts metal making minerals from the ground in the Elk Valley. Metals this government has not acknowledged as a critical mineral. You'll see it in the hands of farmers like Tyler, who understands the science and the weather, the soil, commodity prices to bring food from the fields to our tables. You'll see it in Terry, the electrician in Cranbrook, who can send lightning shooting through a copper wire to light up our homes. Often these people are called ordinary, but they are not ordinary. They're extraordinary. They're the ones bearing the brunt of broken federal policies. They are the individuals paying from their paychecks for the inflation caused by out-of-control federal spending. The waitress Cassidy in Revelstoke, who could serve 15 customers at the same time, be on her feet all day, and have enough energy to help her son with math homework, pay all her bills on a minimum wage salary, but unable to save any money for her and her son's future. She's not ordinary, she's extraordinary. The police officer, Constable Diane, who pushes through the pain of recovering someone's overdosed daughter from a homeless camp in Cranbrook or Nelson, and then with her husband tucks her children in at night. She's not ordinary, she's extraordinary. As the leader of the official opposition has said, that is the goodness, the greatness, even the genius of the common people. The common sense of the common people, striving for the purpose of the common home. The people's common democratic home is right here, in this place, the House of Commons. This, all of this, is theirs. And it is our common sense voice that is missing from this budget, Mr. Speaker. They are experts on the expense of inflation, an expense caused and fanned by this government. The reality for hardworking people in Kootenay, Columbia, is that life is now more expensive, homes are unattainable, groceries are becoming a luxury, and life has become more difficult. Yet the finance minister has never been more optimistic about the future of our country. That's out of touch. This should not be the Canadian experience. This chamber is green because the first commoners met in the fields of England over 800 years ago. They wrestled the power away from high society, nobility, to make themselves commoners, masters in their own homeland. Would those who wrestled agree with the policies of this Prime Minister? On this side of the House, the official opposition remembers what this government has forgotten.
Right.
We are servants, not masters. It is the common people, those we serve, who are the masters in this free land, and they're the ones that fund the budgets of the day. It is their common sense that is absent from this budget. In fact, the budget continues down the Prime Minister's nonsensical approach to higher taxes and inflationary deficits. It doesn't make Canada work for the people who have done the work. On the point of the budget, the Conservatives asked the government for three things. First, that the budget pave the way for Canadians to bring home powerful paychecks by lowering taxes and scrapping the carbon tax. Instead of listening to Canadians on the government, the government is continuing with their war on work and increasing taxes, which means workers are punished for working and will now take home even less in their paychecks. Inflationary spending has caused the cost of food and groceries to skyrocket. 1 in 5 Canadians are skipping meals, and people are going to food banks asking for help because they can't afford to eat. The Prime Minister's grocery rebate will give $234 for a single adult to cover the rising cost of food this government's inflationary deficits have helped cause. Canada's latest food price report predicts a family of 4 will spend up to $1,000 more on food this year. That's $600 more than the $467 rebate they will receive. Just this year, the government raised payroll taxes on workers and small businesses. This means that Ken, a forestry worker living in Creston, making $66,600, will be forced to pay an extra $255 through the mandatory Canada Pension Plan tax this year. That worker will also have to pay an extra $50 through the employment insurance tax. That's a $305 increase. The grocery rebate does nothing more than give money back to the Canadians that the Prime Minister already clawed away with his tax increases. This will not solve the cost of living crisis. There's more. The government increased the carbon tax to 14 cents per litre on April 1st, making it more expensive for Canadians to heat their homes and get to work. The PBO shows the carbon tax will cost the average family $402 and $847 in 2023, even after the rebates. By 2030, the Prime Minister's 2 carbon taxes could add 50 cents per litre to the price of gasoline. The people in Kootenay, Columbia are already paying $1.70 a litre, which is 40% more per litre than the same fuel 30 minutes away. We are all well aware, especially in rural Canada, our food security is dependent on the distribution from our truck drivers, those who use diesel fuel. The significant increase in carbon tax has a direct effect on the cost of our groceries, and the more remote, the more expensive. The cost of fuel is added to all the commodities shipped, a huge burden on the families and seniors in rural Canada. I could go on. The fact remains this budget continues the government's war on the worker. Second, we're asked that the budget pave the way for lower prices by ending inflationary debt and deficits that drive up inflation and interest rates. Instead of listening to Canadians, the Prime Minister added more debt than all Prime Ministers combined. He has no plans to balance the budget and control his inflationary deficits that are driving up the cost of goods we buy and the interest we pay. Canada's federal debt is projected to reach $1.22 trillion. That is nearly $81,000 per household in Canada, which is more than many households earn. Worse, he's planning on growing the deficit by $40.1 billion. According to the budget, Canada's debt to GDP ratio is projected to increase from 42.4 to 43.5%. Last budget cycle, the finance minister said Canada's debt to GDP ratio was her fiscal anchor, and the debt to GDP must decline for Canada's finances to be sustainable.
What happened to that?
I would like to repeat the finance minister's words for the constituents of Kootenay, Columbia. The minister said, "Let me be very clear. We are absolutely determined that our debt to GDP ratio must continue to decline. Our deficits must continue to be reduced. The pandemic debt we incurred to keep Canadians safe and solvent must and will be paid down. This is our fiscal anchor. This is a line we shall not cross. It will ensure our finances remain sustainable." So, this means, according to the finance minister, the Prime Minister's inflationary debt deficits are unsustainable. And the third thing the Conservatives asked was that the budget pave the way for Canadians to bring the opportunity for homes Canadians can afford by removing the government gatekeepers to free up land and speed up building permits. The dream of home ownership has gone from reality to a dream for young and old Canadians under this government. 9 out of 10 people will not own a home. They say they never will. But every objective measure, things are more expensive. The Canadians are taking home less. This is a tired government that has no plans to help Canadians, no plan to remove the gatekeepers and build more homes, no plans to free up federal lands and properties, and no plans to speed up building permits, withholding federal funding from cities that refuse to remove gatekeepers. Under this government, everything feels broken. Broken is Emma, elementary school in Cranbrook, asking why her parents can't afford groceries. Broken is Mary, a single senior in Creston, not having enough left over to pay fuel and make the 120-kilometer drive to visit her doctor. Mary has to make a choice. Broken is Ethan, father in Cranbrook, who's worked hard, done everything right, and yet finds himself at a food bank because his paycheck, after taxes and inflation, doesn't make it to the end of the month. These are real stories from real Canadians. But help is on its way. Conservatives plan to turn hurt into hope. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Hear, hear.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I certainly have much more optimism than the member across the way in terms of the position that our country is in. I think it, is a lot to say that a country is broken. I couldn't disagree more with this member. Yes, from time to time we certainly have work to do, and right now with the rising costs that we're seeing throughout the country and indeed throughout the entire world, we have to help Canadians and support them. There are many measures in this Budget Implementation Act that seek to do exactly that, whether it's by increasing the GST to help people through with those rising costs of groceries that the member just mentioned, or whether it's the various different other supports that are in there. I'm wondering if the member can explain why, if he's so concerned, as he just indicated, about people in his community, why he can't support this budget that takes aim at helping them directly.
The honourable member for Kootenay Columbia.
Madam Speaker, thank you, and thank the member for the question. The reality is that the people out there in our communities are not saying that. They're saying they cannot afford this budget. They're saying they can't afford to eat. They're saying they can't afford to drive to a doctor's appointment and eat. The seniors are struggling every day. This budget is not helping them. Carbon tax is not helping them. All of our deliveries, our groceries, are delivered by diesel trucks. That's our supply chain. We knew during the COVID that our supply chains were critical, our food supplies were critical, yet we're taxing everyone more, especially the carbon tax, with farmers, ranchers, and with our deliveries. So I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel.
Questions and comments. The honourable député de Shefford.
The honourable member for Shefford. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague for his speech. He talked about seniors and the carbon tax, but I have a suggestion to make to my colleague. What seniors have been asking me is more direct assistance to help them get through this time. And it's through OAS, and to reduce the gap between those who are 60 and over and 60 and under. We need to recognize that seniors are impacted by inflation. There's only a single check for seniors to help them with their groceries, and that won't last long. I would like to hear him talk about assisting seniors further.
Columbia.
Yeah, and I thank the member for the question. And yes, I do agree that the seniors are fragile, and they're the ones that are getting hurt the most. As the prices go up for groceries, for a head of lettuce that goes up to $3-4, it's a senior that's only getting the OAS, and some get CPP, some do not. That is the most critical part of our society. The seniors are the ones that took care of us. That's our parents. And those are the ones that we have to spend time, find some funding for them so that we can help them through this inflationary crisis. But we can't do that if we keep spending money that we don't have, and all of a sudden inflation starts rising.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
I'd like to thank my neighbour Kootenays for his speech. He spent a lot of time talking about the carbon tax, and the Conservatives here never mentioned the fact, certainly a British Columbia Conservative such as he is, that the carbon tax in British Columbia is a Conservative tax. It was brought in by Gordon Campbell in 2008, 15 years ago. I'm sure this member voted for Gordon Campbell several times. And yes, it went up 3 cents a litre on April 1st. The price of gas in his and my riding has gone up probably $1 over the last year. And would he join, instead of this fight on the carbon tax when most people get all of that back, would he join the NDP in a fight for the excessive profit tax on big oil and gas companies and big grocery retailers that are driving up the price of gas and groceries?
The honourable member for Kootenay Columbia has 40 seconds to respond.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague, my neighbour as well, for his question. Here's the issue. The issue is that people can't afford the carbon tax today. So to say that it's only 3 cents is not the point. The point is they do not have the money to buy their groceries. They don't have the money to take their children on holidays. They just don't have any money. They can't buy homes. They can't rent houses. The taxes we have today are overpowering. And when you talk about carbon tax, let's talk about the farmers and the ranchers. Those are the ones paying the brunt of the carbon tax because of what they're delivering. So no, I cannot support that.
Resuming debate.